Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retro channel. Inside this box is a system that I'm totally unfamiliar with, but thanks to a tip-off from fellow Australian retro YouTuber Oz Retro Comp, I have ended up with a Sega SC-3000. Now this is Sega's first home computer and possibly only home computer, and it was released in Japan at the same time as the Nintendo Famicom. They did also release this Sega SG-1000, which is basically the same thing, except just a games console, and it didn't have a keyboard. So this is the computer version with a keyboard. And yeah, I haven't opened up the box. It was sold as untested due to the seller not having a display to test it on. And that could possibly be true because we're probably going to find that this only does RF. I think it may have a DIN connector, but who's going to get a DIN connector for a console that they have no intention of using, I guess. So it may well be untested, but I guess there's only one way to find out. So let's open up the box and see what we got. Whoa. Games. Well, I do like games. Decent amount of packaging. RF channel connector, selector. Run-of-the-mill quick-shot joystick with auto fire. Standard DE9 connector on the end there. Power supply, will it be Australian? Yes. So these systems didn't have a huge release outside of Japan. It was mainly Australia and New Zealand and a couple of other countries that actually had these in retail stores. And in Australia specifically, it was distributed by John Sands, who was more or less a greeting card company. And I guess they wanted to branch out into, you know, computers and home electronics. So John Sands Electronics power supply is not a big surprise here. And I don't know if I actually want to use this. In fact, is that electrical tape or is that just some poor attempt at strain relief? I don't know, but I'll probably power this system off the bench power supply, at least until I actually test this one. So we'll put that aside. And finally, the unit itself. Let's check it out. Ooh. Oh. The SC-3000 personal computer. Squishy dead flesh keyboard. Ooh, spacebar feels a bit wonky. Yeah, here it is. SC-3000, big old reset button, power LED. On the back, we've got an RF connection, channel selector switch, video DIN output, a printer port. Yes, there was a printer available for this machine. Cassette port in and out. Again, cassette, early 80s. The barrel connector for the power supply. Power on and off switch, still feels clicky. Nothing looks particularly loose or damaged. I'm not seeing any cracks in the case. There are a few scratches and scuff marks here and there, and the label's been a little bit chewed up. But yeah, there we go. Serial number is T4078124. Sega Enterprises Limited. The Sega personal computer. Cartridge / expansion port on the side, and yeah, two joy ports, DE9 on the other. Cool. All in all, it's a little bit dirty. There's some dirt stuck in these little channels here, but it's not too bad. Let's check out this games box. This is a box for a hydraulic motor. All the recommended maximum tightening torques, 130 Newton meters. Don't over torque it. What is this? Microphones. Very 80s microphones. Don't know if they're related to the computer though. Oh, things are falling apart already. We have Congo Bongo, N-Sub, Champion Tennis, Basic Level 3A. Now I believe the basic cartridges actually contain some RAM as well, so I think the system itself only has 1 or 2K of RAM, and the basic cartridges can expand that up to, you know, 64, maybe 128K. So I think the amount of RAM inside the cartridge varies depending on the level and also this character on the end. So I'm pretty sure there's a level 3B and maybe a level 3C, which both have more and more RAM. I think the A might have 32K, but I guess we'll find out. Operating manual. Ooh. Cool. Let's hook up a display and see if this thing works, I guess. Now, it doesn't mention anything about the polarity of the barrel jack, but I'm guessing it's going to be center negative, which was the style at the time. This also doesn't tell me anything. Let's just have a quick look with the multimeter. So usually the negative pole will also be ground. So there's continuity, a short between the center pin and the ground on the outside of this RF. So it is definitely center negative. Right, so I've got my makeshift LCD display hooked up, but it does have an analog tuner, so it's probably perfect for this. And I'm not going to try and use the original analog switch box, whatever. So yeah, the bench power supply is set to 9 volts. It's currently current limited to 100 milliamps, so no doubt we will get overcurrent protection, but I just want to see, make sure there's not a short here. I'll just test the barrel jack. It should be center negative if I've hooked this up correctly. Yep, 9 volts there on the dot. Let's plug it in and flick the switch, see if the LED comes on or if the... Okay, so the bench supply is current limiting. Let's give it a little bit more. So it doesn't seem to be a dead short. So it's drawing 800 milliamps. I'd say that's probably okay. The original power supply is rated for 1.1 amps, so that seems all right. Let's keep it powered on. Obviously the power LED comes on. Doesn't seem to change when you hit reset, but it might not be doing anything without a cartridge. I don't think it's got any ROMs built into it, so we may be getting a black screen out of it. We may be getting nothing at all, but let's see if we can tune it in. All right, so it has picked up a black screen. Let's see if the basic cartridge will do anything. Still getting about 800 milliamps, and there is a buzzing tone from the speakers, I think. Yes. Doesn't seem to change when I hit reset either. Just reseat the cartridge. That, to me, suggests a dead computer, but let's just try one of the game cartridges before we go pulling this apart. Champion Tennis. Get ready. Nope, it makes a different tone. I'm drawing a little bit more current with that one though. Right, something must be wrong. Let's open it up. What have we got? Phillips head screws. That's nice. Are there any more screws? Nope. Looks like just 3 screws, maybe some clips holding the rest. The keyboard is lifting up. I just want to see if there's... Okay, so it's not a really crappy membrane connecting the keyboard by the looks of it, but it's not the best connection either. It appears to be some ribbon cable. Now it does look like some clips hidden back here, so perhaps... In fact, I wonder if there's screws hidden under those feet. This one's already missing. No, no screws. But we are missing a couple of feet. Don't think there's a screw hiding under there. Right, so the keyboard seems to tilt back and then kind of lift up and forward. And you can see those ribbon cables there, so don't want to put too much pressure on them. Now, the rear part of the case must clip in at the side. Yes, it does. Yes. Hidden clip there. We're close. Right. So, clip there. Clip there. Just in case you ever come across one of these machines. Now we should... I wonder if we can disconnect the keyboard without destroying this cable. Should be able to disconnect this. So yeah, it's soldered to the back, but it is in little headers on the board, so gently wiggle these out. Cool. All right, we're in. So what do we see? Not a lot. Very basic. Single-sided board. So everything is soldered to the rear and there's just jumper wires everywhere. There's a fuse which is intact, as to be expected, because, you know, it does kind of work. RAM along the bottom here. 8118 RAM. Looks like this little daughter board can come out just with pinching these little tabs in, which feel very hard, possibly very brittle. Okay, so a Texas Instruments TMS 9929. I'm pretty sure these are used in a lot of other machines of this era, possibly the 994A, among others. Apart from that, it's not really much to see because, yeah, it's all single side, so all the fun stuff is on the other side. So at this point I might just power it back on again, see if anything gets unusually warm. That might be a telltale sign of where we should start probing. Yep, 800 milliamp being drawn. just give it a minute, see what heats up. Ooh, thermal cam time. Yeah. Alright, so after a couple of minutes of being powered on, there's not really too much to report. Most things look to be at about 30 or 40 odd degrees, except for this Texas Instruments chip, which looks to be at about 53. The RAM seems fairly cool, and yeah, because some of these are shiny, they can confuse the thermal cam a little bit, but yeah, that's the only thing that's getting really hot. I'm guessing there is a 7805 under this big heatsink here, seeing as the power input comes in. So yeah, our 9 volts is being regulated down to 5 volts, I would imagine. Don't know if there's a 12 volt rail or anything on this as well, but nothing is burning hot. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just a bad cartridge port. Little contact cleaner should do the trick. A little bit of that. Bit of the old in out, in out. Did that help? It did. Champion tennis. Yeah. So it looks like our basic cartridge is struggling to boot. We've got a green screen and almost like Morse code. And then it stops. Alright. Clean the cartridge connector with some IPA. Let's see if that helped. Oh, yes. Sega SC-3000 Basic Level 3 version 1.0 export version with diareses? Sounds like a disease. Copyright 1983 by MyTech. 12284 bytes free. So there you go, 12K free. So I'm guessing this... Oh, just tapping it caused it to freeze. And now it's buzzing at me again. So yeah, might pull this out and have to give it a proper clean and maybe even resolder the cartridge edge connector. So yeah, it seems to work okay some of the time, but as soon as I say push on this cartridge, it gets angry. It looks like there's no real strain relief for this edge connector, so I won't be surprised if there's some bad joints on the underside here. Let's dig deeper. Alright, so 4 screws need to come out, but I'm looking at it now and I think the power switch is actually going to keep it stuck in because it is soldered to the main board, and the switch needs to come, well, either remain there or push out that way. So I'm going to have to desolder the power switch. Alright, power switch is desoldered. We should be able to move this around now. And we can. I'm just going to try and get the rest of it out around the joystick ports. Cool. Remnants of a spider. Well, here's where all the fun stuff is. Here's our 7805, which is attached to that big ass heatsink. And yeah, the board itself, I mean, it's coated in flux and other junk, but seems okay. There's no signs of corrosion or rust or anything, so that's always good. Now, this edge connector. Yep, that does not look healthy. So some of the pins, especially up on this corner here, have a nice circle around them, which would indicate that we're going to have some bad solder joints in that area. So what I'm going to do is just reflow all these joints and see if that makes it any happier. Right, fresh bit of solder over those. I'm not going to put it back in the case and reconnect the power switch. I'm just going to bridge that. Right, power switch is just bridged for now. Let's plug this back in. May as well throw our basic cart back in because that's what was giving us the most trouble. Probably because it relies on some more of those connections versus a simple game cartridge, seeing as it's got onboard RAM, among other things. Bench power supply is on. Let's plug her in. Right, well, that seems a bit more reliable. Let's jiggle this around a bit. Yeah. So before, just the slightest touch would make it lock up. But now, actual cartridge case is moving around the board itself. And still got a flashing cursor and it's not making horrible beeping noises. So that is a fix. Alright, well, at this point, the machine appears to be functioning just fine. It hasn't crashed, even with me jiggling this around. So I would call it at least partially fixed, but we obviously haven't tested out the keyboard yet, or the control ports, the DIN video out. So many more things to look at on this machine, but I'm going to leave this one here because I don't know about you, but I have a pretty short attention span, so I don't want this video to get too long. So let's check all that out in the next video, but for now, a massive thanks to everyone for watching. Huge thanks to the people that support the channel on Patreon and YouTube memberships. And yeah, we'll pick this up next time, hopefully with some better video output. Maybe something that I can actually capture rather than using this little janky LCD display thing. But we'll find out in the next one. So as always, thanks for watching the Retro Channel. Bye. Still got like styrofoam in there. Squeaky styrofoam. Hang on, how does this... Oh. Learn how to open a box.